And we are live.
Hello and warm welcome to the Healing Healthcare Authors Tour with your host, myself, Dina Redinger, and Sharon Weinstein, who we are the co-authors of the book, Healing Healthcare, Evidence-Based Strategies to Mend Our Broken System. Nurses remain the backbone of healthcare, and little has been done or even studied or remedied the system in crisis. If it's not addressed now, humankind will suffer. The book is packed with solutions to the problems that plague our healthcare systems today, the problems that lead to these troubling sentiments among prospective nurses. Nurse leaders share their experiences, their thoughts, their evidence, and their strategies to ensure the health of healthcare. What you will find within the actionable steps for fixing a system that is currently suffering in silence. We must get this book into the hands of those who make decisions. Before we start, we want to acknowledge you. We want to thank you for joining us. We have viewers from all over the globe, so please use your chat. Let us know where you're from, and we can still comment if we see you in this replay, and we will respond to you. So over to you, Sharon.
Thank you, Dina. Thanks for that great welcome. Today, we are so thrilled to welcome Dr. Anna Dermenchyan, whose chapter is a great addition to the well-being section of the book. Anna is a nurse leader who cultivates strong relationships to perform meaningful work. Interim Chief Quality Officer of the UCLA Department of Medicine, Anna oversees quality activities that improve the quality of care and designs and implements interventions that improve population health. Her expertise includes bioethics, critical care, quality and patient safety, organizational leadership, performance and process improvement, and healthcare analytics. She is an author and a speaker. She has served as a Jonas Policy Scholar with the American Academy of Nursing and a Health Policy and Media Fellow with the George Washington University Center for Health Policy and Media Engagement. I personally have known Anna for years. I've enjoyed going to lunch with her when I lived in Chicago. She is an amazing professional, and I am so pleased to welcome you. Welcome, Anna.
Thank you so much, Sharon and Dina. Glad to be here.
We're thrilled.
Yeah. So, Anna, we want to start with the question, tell us why you decided to join us on this journey of healing healthcare. Tell us what spurred you to join.
Thank you, Dina, for that question. I mean, anything Sharon asked me to do, I'm always willing.
Yes, me
Honestly,
too.
that's like
There are a couple of people
Sharon...
like that. Welcome to the club.
Yeah.
Well, Sharon mentioned she's been in my life for a long, long time. She's been a wonderful mentor. I think we met in my 20s when I was just a new professional. I had just started in nursing, and I had asked her to come and speak about a healthy work environment topic at a conference I was hosting at UCLA. She's done a lot of work in meaningful recognition, and that was the topic she spoke on. I've learned a lot from her. So it was a way to give back, and it was a way to contribute everything that I've learned through my nursing journey and the pandemic and the recovery process. I wanted to be able to contribute my knowledge through a reflective process of writing. And that's what it was. It was really wonderful to be part of the team of authors that contribute to healing healthcare. And I will say that there's so many authors in this book that have inspired me, that have leaders from across the world. So many like that I know from my journey with American Critical Care Nurses Association. Vicki Good is on there. She's a wonderful leader. And then I know Sigma. I've been involved in Sigma for a long time, and Sigma has a lot of leaders. I'm going to call out Kathy Catrabone, who's an author as well, and I think she did her interview last week. And then a special friend and colleague, Alina Kushkin from Armenia, I've contributed or collaborated with when I've been there. I was born in Armenia. So it's wonderful to have all of these leaders contributing to this book and sharing their reflections of how we go forward from what we've experienced.
I love that. I love that. And your chapter is packed full of so many specific strategies. It's amazing. So over to you, Sharon.
Sure. We can't wait to talk about your chapter.
Yeah.
You were the only one, you should know this, who offered personal quotes, and you offered several of them within your chapter. What inspired you to do that? For example, you said, and I'll quote, "Let's support and value frontline nurses. We will all need care one day." Nothing is more true than that. Tell us how you got involved with the quotes and what does that mean? What made it so special?
I know when I was putting it together, it was a little strange, but I did want to highlight my insights and learnings. I realized through writing op-eds, through being interviewed, a lot of times like people do quote, the author. Like I've had associations ask me to be interviewed and share my reflections. And one time I wrote a couple of pages and I realized the article was just based on my statements, but they made it their own. Um, and it was an article, but it was my article. I was just being interviewed. So I realized like there's a lot that I'm sharing and people are quoting. The insights could be the highlights, the insights I've learned that I want to pass on. So I structured a chapter in a way for each of the sections that kind of highlight a quote from an insight that I've had or an aha moment or something that has been highlighted in the media that I just wanted to like anchor whatever I was writing afterwards for that section. So I did share a lot of my quotes. And some of it is just inspiring. I know when I was growing up, I used motivational quotes for presentations, for grounding us whenever we're talking about a subject and trying to motivate others. So I wanted that to be the same way, like using my quotes to be kind of like an inspiration or a thought that led to more action. So I know there's many other ones. I think one that really like resonates personally with me. I've said this, once you find your purpose, and a lot of people say this, but to me, how I phrase it, once you find your purpose, you can radically change your life for the better and impact the lives of your family and community in the years to come. Because I personally experienced this. Once I realized my calling and figuring out what I wanted to do in my profession, I really like then mapped the course that I've had a lot of successes, and it hasn't just influenced how I've lived my life. I have made my family's life better and the communities I've served through volunteering, through experiences I've had. It's all contributed to my well-being. So I wanted to be able to highlight those quotes for others.
I love. I want to jump in here just briefly. One of the things that Sharon and I are talking about and working with, even healthcare systems, is putting small groups of people together to make sure to align that purpose and how powerful that purpose is and having meaningful work and making sure you're solving the right problem at the right time is so critical. And you really can't do that unless you have your core values aligned to what your purpose is and what's meaningful to you, what's meaningful work. And we talk a little bit about that and make sure and aligning that. So I'm going to go over to you, Sharon, because it's very critical that, people are, I think healthcare systems allow people the time to really understand what that is for themselves. That's perfect. I love that.
And before we jump into Sharon, I was going to say there's so much research about belonging. Like when people feel like they work in like an environment, a health system that really recognizes who they are and their contributions, and they feel like they belong, then they're more likely to have well-being and better outcomes.
Yeah.
At the ethics conference we host, it's a national ethics conference we host annually in Los Angeles. It's a topic that resonates with all nurses when we talk about belonging and feeling that your work really matters, that people do recognize it, and the contributions you bring are important because then they drive outcomes. And if people see that in their work and leaders see that in individual work, then it makes a big difference how we retain nurses and other healthcare professionals.
Right. Easily
That's
said,
exactly
so hard
right.
for leaders to do. Go back to you, Sharon.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you said that, Anna. First of all, because everyone has a DE&I initiative. No one has a DE&I and D initiative where belonging is equally a part of that process.
Right.
So you're exactly right. We recognize people from all walks of life. That's wonderful. But people need to feel as if they belong, as if they are valued by the organization they're serving, and that the value that they bring to that organization resonates and aligns with the culture of that organization. that's when they really stay. And I talk a lot about the whole concept of having a retention effort before you have a recruitment effort. If you have the right retention pieces in place, you won't ever have to worry about recruitment because people will want to come to you.
Right.
If you conducted a stay interview and asked the people you have why they stay,
Right.
you'd already know
Right.
what that value is. So Dina is exactly right. When we do these diagnostic design thinking groups, we really work very closely on people's individual core values index, allowing them to understand what they bring to the table, the value that they bring, and how they can interact with others within a group and beyond to really be the best version of themselves. And I felt a lot of that best version of yourself throughout your chapter. It resonated so deeply with me, maybe because we also share an affection for the motherland, if you will. Maybe that's part of it as well. But it made me feel so good. Back to you, Dina.
Yeah, and I want to kind of go back to I'm sorry, did you want to say something?
Yes, I did want to, Sharon, thanks for summarizing all that. I wanted to say, just for the leaders out there, I'm in a director and serving as an interim chief role, but the way I make sure, just going back to the topic of belonging, something I've started doing the last few years, especially during COVID, is having my monthly meetings and having the staff lead those meetings to tell me like what are they wanting to accomplish in the next year, and then documenting that after every meeting, like what kind of ways do I support them and what ways are they going to work towards their goals. And it's made such a difference because then during the annual competencies or annual sign off, I could directly go back to what we've talked about monthly and discuss each point of have we achieved their goals? Have they made progress? And I've had staff do some amazing things because, like I've pushed them a little, but then it's been based on the desires they've had, the purpose they've like written down. So it's been really great from the leadership perspective, working with my individual team members and really figuring out what drives them and what makes them come to work and show up their full self and support them in that way.
I'm glad you jumped in because that's so important. And if you don't do that as a leader, then don't expect any sort of outcome to change because it's not going to change. Because people have to do things based on their own self desire to get this done, this own self fulfillment. And if it comes from the top down and not from the bottom up, then you've got problems. And this is where we feel that the systems are broken, both from leadership, nurses, and even a patient. We were talking about that this morning, just about patient. But, I want to ask you, what's the takeaway? This is the last question. What is the main takeaway for your chapter? Something that you want to give? You gave such a great point just now. But is there anything else you'd like to add to that to have a takeaway for our listeners today?
Yes, I guess to summarize, the chapter is a lot about reflecting of what's happened in the past, especially during the pandemic, because it highlighted a lot of issues we face in healthcare. And then it's envisioning a future where, we can be practicing in healthy work environments, supporting each other, really believing in all of the standards of healthy work environment and championing it in our workplaces. So it talks about how we do that from the leadership perspective, from the frontline perspective. And then it gives some suggestions. As you read in my bio, I'm in quality improvement. So I do believe in continuous improvement. I've seen things that I've started 10 years ago come back now be the thing that everyone worries about. And back then when I was working on it, I was just so disheartened because no one else was believing in it. So it does, if you really have a passion and you believe in something, I think you have to look at long-term goals. So it's about the past, it's about envisioning a future, but it's also about you really being specific about your own journey and mapping that out. So I have few suggestions in there, looking at a table of various categories of well-being and examples that I've shared, how the type of goals that I make for each of the categories, and that helps me then, have a vision for myself. And every time I get lost in the daily hurdle of like tasks and
Mhm.
meetings from 7 a.m. till 6 p.m. Sometimes those things like feel just, it takes away from purpose and from the good work you're doing.
Mhm.
That's how it's felt to me, but I always reflect on like those bigger goals and try
Yeah.
to map out how I'm going to achieve them throughout that year or throughout the next 3 years, 5 years. So I have a table in there that helps people just reflect on their own process of making goals and what they can achieve. And then the last piece of it, there's a matrix map of prioritizing goals, because
Mhm.
all of us have millions of things to do and we run out of time.
Right.
And it's really prioritizing our, and it's not like prioritizing, but it's like looking at our priorities and making those the most important things
Right.
we schedule and plan out. So it's thinking about the metrics. Metrics map is like, what's the most important, impactful in your life? And then the things that are the highest impact and the most important, you work on them first. And it gives you just, we do this in quality improvement because there's so many things to work on.
Yeah.
In improving a system, all of us know this, but you work on your major goals,
Yep.
you prioritize that first, and then you collaborate. There's places where you can collaborate with others and delegate to achieve your goals. And then there are minor goals that you can do later, and things that are not your priority, you eliminate and move on and don't feel guilty about. So the chapter just offers that kind of, it's short, it's not long, but it is a reflective process, envisioning.
Actionable.
It's
And
powerful.
It's actionable. You know, when people read the chapter, it's not like you're reading something. It's almost like a very short workbook. That's how I saw it. I'm like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
you can use this. You know, speaking of using the book, I want to go back to Sharon. Sharon, how would, as we close, how would you suggest the leaders use Healing Healthcare book?
That's a great question, Dina. I am hopeful, truly
Mhm.
hopeful, that leaders and actually professionals from all aspects of the healthcare group,
Mhm.
of that space and beyond, because a
Mhm.
lot of the healthcare lessons are lessons that we learn throughout human resources, which affects every organization
Right.
everywhere on earth. I am so hopeful that they will take just one piece, read one chapter a week, take one piece of the evidence that is shared by our great authors and apply it, pilot it within your organization. See what small change you can make
Yep.
that is transformative and that really takes you then to the next step in the process. And the
Mhm.
way that we've divided it into the workforce, taking a long, close look at what we have now, looking at what the evidence tells us, then applying that to the well-being piece, because if we have a staff whose well-being is appreciated and valued, they'll be able to stay. And then the words of wisdom from those who have been in the practice for many, many years. So I
Mhm.
am hopeful that just one chapter a week
Mhm.
with
Yep.
one takeaway from each of those chapters piloted in your organization will make
Mhm.
all the difference, that takes you on that journey, helps you to follow that map that Anna talked about to move to what comes next.
Right.
That's my
It's
goal.
evidence-based strategies. We can't stress that enough. You know, like you said, Anna, I've been doing this for years. I've done the analytics. We know what works. Can you just use it and apply it? So I'd like for you to go ahead and close this, Sharon.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Anna. You truly are a transformational leader. It's such a joy to talk with you, but it's
Yeah.
time for a close, as all
Mm.
good things come to a close. And we invite our guests to join us again as we welcome another one of your peers to the program. Next week, we feature Tim Radersdorf, nurse innovator. So please do join us for his session.
Yep.
At this time, I want to say thank you, Anna, for coming on board, for being a part of our process, and for being able to join us today to
Yep.
share your words of wisdom. They are, as you are, transformational.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
Anna.
very much.